Our leading interview today, in my opinion, is one of the biggest things that's happening in tech. They just don't realize it yet. And we have an interview with the CEO of this public company that's going to take crypto by storm. Welcome. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, and we have Zep back this week. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good, but as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So just in case we have some new people today, I wanted to explain what this show is. I know early on when we first started doing this, I'd be concerned in the beginning of the week, are we going to have enough content by the end of the week? And really quickly, it became clear that that was never going to be an issue because there's so much happening within the Hedera space. Now the issue is we try to make these between 45 minutes and an hour, but a lot of times they'll go well over an hour, even to an hour and a half. It's trying to fit everything into those time slots. And, people might come for, one of the lead stories we have. They might come for the HBAR market, but there is so much happening in the space, whether it's our token economy, whether it's DeFi, whether it's things that are happening in the environmental space, that we want to expose everybody to every little piece. So you might come for one thing, but there might be something else that we cover that resonates with you that you want to get involved with. So that's the whole point of these, just to keep everybody up to date with everything that's happening. So if something does resonate with you, you can jump on it. So the next thing we want to get into is that lead interview that I was talking about. And I've covered this a bit in recent weeks, and it was already starting to capture my imagination. But until I talked to Carlos, he's the CEO of WiseSat, WiseKey, and SealSQ, I really didn't understand the full potential. But after talking with him, my mind has been absolutely blown. So let's check it out. Carlos, welcome. Congratulations on what must feel like a whirlwind. We even saw you ringing the bell at NASDAQ.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Brandon. Yeah, that was, there's actually two companies we managed to put on the NASDAQ, WiseKey and SealSQ, which is our latest company. We did that in May last year. So very exciting for a Swiss company. In the history of Switzerland, we had Logitech, I'm sure you know, the mouse company. We went to the NASDAQ. And us, there's nobody else on the technology front. So it's a very special occasion for the country as well.
Yeah, it's a major achievement. So, Carlos, to kick this off, can you explain your vision for WiseSat, SealCoin, more generally for transactional Internet of Things, and what you've built so far?
So the problem we are solving is that 4 trillion things are getting connected to the internet, right? So now we connect mobile phones, we connect some devices, but in the next 5 years, everything is going to be connected to the internet. Your car, your alarm system, your home appliance, the medical appliance in the hospital, airport appliance, smart cities. So everything is getting connected to the internet. So more things you connect to the internet, more cybersecurity challenges you have, because you're just enough a hacker to get into one of those connected devices, which is not secure, it can compromise the entire infrastructure. So imagine a hacker getting into a video camera in an airport, which is not secure. Through that video camera, they can go into the access control and even the command centers. So cybersecurity is becoming a massive issue for connected, what we call the IoT, the Internet of Things. And this is our focus. I mean, we sell semiconductors. We have 1.6 billion semiconductors already sold around the world. So we have 1.6 billion objects already secured by our technology. And that was the first phase of the project, getting them secure. The second phase of the project, which is the one we started with Hedera, HashGraph, is that once the object is secure, you want them to transact. So imagine a car transacting with a charger, electrical charger, transact with your electrical car, or a parking meter connects to your car, or your video camera connects to your TV. I mean, everything is going to be transactional. And in that transactional model, which we call the TIoT, the transactional IoT, you're not going to pay with a credit card, right? You're not going to go out of your car, go to your credit card and pay. It will be normal that those transactions are executed with tokens. So with Hedera, we develop a very powerful infrastructure. Hedera is very good on scalability, so you can scale fast, and this is a requirement, right? Because you have to move from maybe 1 billion objects now to several trillions in very short time. So scalability is a major issue. You also need low latency. So it is important for the transaction. The latency is a very important issue. And it obviously has to be very secure. So what we did is that we are using a decentralized ledger where we put the identity of every object in a Hedera blockchain ledger. So you can verify on the ledger whether that object is secure or not before you connect. So let's say, again, you go with your car, you want to connect to a plug, you are not sure the plug is going to transfer you malware, you're going to go to the ledger, check that identity, and then if that identity is on the ledger, then you trust the plug. So that's the Hedera project, and we also started to look the best way to track and trace those objects. Once you have the chip on it, you want to trace, you want to know where your objects are real time. And we look into Sigfox, LoRa, antennas, 4G, 5G. It was very expensive, and it was actually only connectable on 10% on the Earth surface, because 90% of Earth is actually sea, right? So we look into how can we globally connect those devices, and then obviously satellite, low orbit satellite become an option. And why now and not before? Sending a satellite 5 years ago was a $25 million one satellite. Now you can send the same satellite for $200,000, right? So we made a deal with SpaceX. SpaceX is obviously carrying our satellites, and we are, every time SpaceX sends a rocket, we are also with that rocket with our satellites. So we are creating our own constellation. We have already 17 in orbit, and more to come. And actually, in October, we are launching a new generation of satellite, which is even more powerful. So the vision is clear. I mean, in a few years' time, you will be able to track anything, anywhere from the space under your control. So let's say you have houses in different destinations and you want to check your alarm system in your holiday home, or you want to be sure that you are in an industrial development and all your headquarters industrial products are secure, the stock is well protected. You will be able to do that from the space. Plus, we are also using those chips in a sustainable way, because sustainability is important for us and also for Hedera. And we are also using this technology for track and tracing trees. For instance, we have a deforestation project on where we are putting sensors in forests, then they are trackable through satellite. So we can check whether that forest is going to, anyone is trying to, cut the trees or destroy the forest. We will have that real-time early warning system from the satellite directly, so you can send somebody and stop that practice. So it is IoT, satellite, transactional, token-based, and that creates what I believe is going to be a massive business for everybody, which is the machine-to-machine economy. Objects are going to be transacting between themselves. Now it's humans transacting ourselves, but we only are 6 billion humans, and maybe only 1 billion of them, they have the transactional capability. Whether in objects, you are talking about trillions of objects. Imagine the massive economy that this will create when objects start to transact between themselves. So that's the project. It's very straightforward, and it is executed with an amazing group of people.
Well, you've explained really well, why you chose Hedera, but I want to get into the token portion of it a little bit. Of course, your token has been built or is being built on top of Hedera. Can you tell us a little bit about SealCoin and what role that's going to play in this whole thing?
So SealCoin is the name of the token. It is a utility payment token. SealCoin has two functions. One is authenticates and provides an identity of the object. So I am a camera, I am a smoke detector, I am a car, I am a plug. So that's the identity. Currently, objects don't have identity. They only have a QR code or a code bar, but it's very simple identity. This is an extra, it's like a birth certificate of an object. It's like the passport of the object. So the first thing the token does. And the second thing is the possibility of doing transaction settlement. As I mentioned before, you buying data. Let's say that you are an AI algorithm and you want to acquire data from a object because you need that data in order to build your LLM. So that data will be paid with tokens, with SealCoin. And an object will exchange services. Let's say that an object requires the services of another object, because that object, imagine a system that wants to get get data from cameras because those cameras allow the AI to monitor the cybersecurity. That video camera connection and data will be paid with Seal coins. So we're doing that within Hedera ecosystem. Hedera is a powerful coin itself. They have their own token. And what the token industry requires is use cases. I mean, we are empowering basically the economy by injecting a very concrete proof of concept on how to use those tokens, right? Which is everybody wins. Investors that they buy Hedera tokens win. Investors that they buy the Seal token wins. And the end game is, as I say, moving everything to the fourth industrial revolution.
I love that vision. Now, you mentioned SpaceX. So when you post pictures with Elon Musk, it certainly raises some eyebrows. What you're doing seems to be right up his alley. Has he shown any interest in what you're doing with transactional Internet of Things?
Sure. I mean, I met Elon in Versailles at the Macron organized a very big event in Paris, in Versailles, in the Palace of Versailles, where he invites CEOs, and I was one of the 80 CEOs invited together with Elon Musk. And on my discussion, Elon Musk is very well aware of what we are doing because we are the business case for him. I mean, sending SpaceX costs a lot of money. He's doing an IPO. For a moment, he's sending his own satellite, Starlink. But this is once Starlink is already in orbit, that's it. I mean, he needs new players like us using his transport capability to send more satellite because this is how he makes money, right? He charges fees for that. So bigger is going to be the IoT market. More satellites are going to be sent because you need to track and trace more objects. More SpaceX launch processes will be guaranteed, and therefore his company will flourish. And his vision is also very similar to our vision, which is decentralization. I mean, before this technology was in the hands of 2 or 3 or 4 multinationals that they control, basically. They had like a monopoly on the space. The vision of Elon is decentralization, is letting countries to have their own access to a space in a decentralized way, which goes very much in line with the blockchain philosophy, right? And this decentralization of ledgers. So he likes very much also the fact that this is a blockchain play in space. Nobody has done that before, right? This is the first time a blockchain place is happening from space. Actually, to the point that we minted last year an NFT from the space. One of our satellites was able to mint an NFT from the space directly to a Earth station that we had in New York at that time. And actually, we showed that experiment in the Nasdaq Tower in Times Square. We are part of his business model, and the good thing for us is that he is willing to put us on his rocket because it costs a lot of money, right, to send a rocket, and so he's creating an environment where a company like ours can use his infrastructure to send more satellites.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It seems like it is an aligned vision. So it appears as if you already have, land-based infrastructure in place, as well as those 19 satellites already in orbit, and that's growing, as you mentioned. And that would seem to be the hard part from my point of view. But I know that you're also targeting those smart homes, autonomous vehicles, other hardware. Do you have any deals with manufacturers to install these transactional Internet of Things sensors?
Yeah. I mean, we are a listed company, just giving you public information. For instance, Cisco routers, Cisco Wi-Fi routers are already secured by us. So 100 million chips have been installed in Cisco routers. Cisco routers is what you put in the middle of infrastructure, network infrastructure. So everything connects to the router, right? If the router is secured by the chip, then the satellite connection can facilitate the communications of the router. We have companies like Medtronic. Medtronic is an American company that develops medical devices, then you assess your health at home. And you send those devices data and collecting from you personally from your health to the hospital or to your doctor or to an emergency situation, that those devices are secured by your chips. Or you have Parrot. Parrot is a very famous drone company, one of the leading drones company. They use our chips to secure the drone communication with the control center. So make sure that the drone can only be piloted by one person and no interception can happen there. So we are doing that. And actually we are triangulating now the satellite with the drone because the satellite might be far away from the chip, and the drone is near. So we have satellite drone, and then on the base we have the chip. So we are using drone to triangulate the communications as well. So in the future, this is with the addition of AI. AI is creating what you call AI agents. So they are AIs, and they are very specialized in doing one thing, right? And those AI bots will be integrated in those devices. So the device will become intelligent themselves as well. So that's the third part, right? Identification, security, transaction, and then as we move forward, devices become intelligent so they can take their own decisions. And this is where it's going to be the next 10 years. I mean, we are moving into this industry 4.5 revolution where devices are going to be living with us humans in a way that they're going to be able to facilitate a lot of the work we are doing. Robotics, heavy lifting work, all that is done by those devices. Those devices needs to be controlled by human, not to create a situation where the device takes control on you, right? Which nobody wants that. So this technology prevents that to happen. And this is why those clients are using our technology for different fields like medical field, financial, interconnectivity, cars. Daimler use our technology, and Daimler is a very big car manufacturer in Germany. So all these companies, then they are using this technology as they are moving forward the fourth industrial revolution.
It's amazing. We knew this stuff was eventually going to come, but to actually see it come to fruition is incredible. So to wrap this up, what are some of the next steps to actually see all this come to fruition, see it come to reality? What are the next steps that WiseSat has coming down the line?
So now the WiseSat is sending more satellites. So the satellite that we are sending in October is from California, from the SpaceX base in California. Hedera is going to be very much involved in the launch. By then, the token is following its process, the regulatory approvals. We are talking to SEC, we are talking to FINMA, which is the Swiss regulatory company. And by the end of the year, the token will be available for both industry and investors. So companies will buy the token because they want to embed the token into the chips that they're already acquiring with us. In the next generation of chips that we are developing, which are post-quantum chips, the token will be already embedded. So the chip will have its own wallet introduced at the chip level. So you can buy a chip that you put into an object and put SealCoin in the wallet. So that SealCoin transfers SealCoin wallet to wallet. It's totally decentralized, totally adapted to the object itself. So what we believe and what we are developing with Hedera, as I mentioned, is a machine-to-machine economy. And that means that Hedera capability is going to be gradually injected into the SealCoin, and SealCoin will become more robust. I mean, we are doing the cybersecurity satellite part. Hedera is doing the blockchain part, right? And that combination makes a very powerful model.
It's absolutely incredible. Carlos, thank you so much for swinging on today, telling us all about WiseSat, around SealCoin, and everything else. Thank you for choosing Hedera, and good luck.
Thank you, Brandon. Nice to talk to you. We'll keep you in contact.
I mean, I think the scale of what's going on there is really, really hard to imagine. But I think the thing that really sticks out to me is this idea of the transactional Internet of Things. We've heard of IoT, i.e. Internet of Things, for years and years and years now, and only are we starting to hear about this transactional Internet of Things, i.e. these autonomous devices not only communicating with each other but trading value with one another, because it's only now being made possible by Web3 and networks that are scalable as Hedera. So I really think this is the start of the transactional Internet of Things as an extension of IoT, and something we're only going to be hearing more of as we move forwards. But to that theme, of things only made possible by Hedera, we have the burgeoning Hedera DeFi ecosystem. We've seen time and time again, these sort of cross graphs between various dexes on various ledgers, exploring the speeds, the transaction fees, and so on of the dexes on our network. And through that, we've seen, the efficiencies of Hedera, both from, a confirmation time in terms of transactions, a highly competitive fee model, but also these other things like the removal of minor extracted value, i.e. MEV, front running, and so on. And so to really flex the muscles of this in the last couple of weeks, or in the last week rather, the foundation, the HBAR Foundation, the ecosystem accelerator of the Hedera network, has announced a new 100 million, up to 100 million HBAR worth of incentives going into that DeFi ecosystem. And so for me, I think this is something that we really needed, to give that renewed energy. We've got the technology there. We just need that renewed interest, that renewed or rather larger user base coming in. And, this is building on what we've seen already of a Q1 for Hedera, which was this builds on the Masari report for Q1 on the Hedera network, which showed that we are breaking daily trading volumes on DEXs like SourceSwap. And I really think this is going to give that more energy. And so within this campaign, we've got new liquid staking incentives via Stata Labs. There's been some discussion around that. Why not just fill up, account 800? Because that is also a form of liquid staking. But I think the real value premise of Stata Labs in this case is that it's much more flexible for the foundation to work with. It doesn't have to go through Hedera as, rigorously, but also it really helps boost those TVL figures on DeFi Llama, which all of these other networks are competing on. That's not to say that account 800, the value isn't there. I do think that I'd like to see that get a top up at some point in the future, but I think specifically for this DeFi campaign, the liquid staking is something that we really need. So alongside the liquid staking, there's going to be various other parts of the ecosystem being supported by this liquidity injection. And I know that you're going to be interviewing some of these teams over the coming weeks. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that, in the weeks to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I want to see account 800 topped up as well. But we do have these different things that are going to be coming to the market, like lending and things like that, and we need to incentivize their use as well. So, like you said, I'm going to catch up with these teams specifically to make sure that everybody in the community understands how they can participate in these various incentives. All right, and I'd like to stay with our token economy. We have a few updates from some of our token issuers. The first one is going to be Hashpack, the most used wallet on the Hedera network. So they had a successful launch. They did their airdrop, and they announced, of course, they're going to be on SaucerSwap, our most used DEX within the Hedera ecosystem, as well as a couple centralized exchanges, BitGet and MEXC. Speaking of BitGet, we also had Sauce listed on a centralized exchange. Again, that's going to be on BitGet. And I also want to get back to the Mouth. People have been curious as to how they can participate. Of course, Mouth is a decentralized promotion platform. So ways you can get involved is you can make a tweet for the loudspeaker using their keywords. You can nominate various posts on X, and there are specific nomination prizes. You can vote in the finals, and they also have some additional ways you can get rewarded. They have a revenue sharing model. They use the revenue from their automatic transaction fee, and they share them with everybody who holds their native token Mouth. They also have a referral program. And finally, they have staking rewards by simply holding Mouth. The longer you hold that Mouth in your wallet, the more you get. And Zeb, we have another token issuer that's going to be coming out of South Korea in AIRian. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, so AIRian is the world's largest runners community project based on Web3 technology. They are created in South Korea as the natural extension of this move to earn ecosystem that we've seen previously, whereby people are directly rewarded in Web3 tokens for exercising. And so this initiative, it is multi-chain, and Hedera's integration into the token will be coming in the following months as a infrastructural or a piece of infrastructure we're waiting for comes online. So very exciting one to look out for. They seem to be being very strong on their marketing. We know that South Korea is a highly, highly active region for Web3, both in terms of builders, users, but also investment. So I think it's an exciting project for us to be part of, for sure.
Now, I know these move to earn things have been done before, but I only can focus on the Hedera ecosystem, and I should be more active myself. I try to do my best and stay in shape, but I could use some additional incentives, so I want to get involved with this as well. All right, so we're going to move over to Shark Bites. Considering the news we had last week with SKUX and Visa, I wanted to get our payments guy, Rob Allen, to give us some insights, but he also answers some questions from the community, so let's check it out. Rob, welcome back. We got some feedback on last week's Shark Bites, and for a lot of people, it was their favorite episode. So you have a pretty high bar this week. But either way, again, welcome back.
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, I'm not actually sure what it was about last week's show that people so liked. Maybe the insights into the governing council. Maybe I was a little bit more on point with my my answers. But let's see if we can achieve the same feedback this week.
There we go. Well, the first thing, before we get into the questions, I want to ask you something because you are the payments guy. What are your thoughts on the SKUX and Visa partnership that was announced just last week?
Yeah, it's great, right? I mean, Bobby is just an amazing proponent of the payment space and the digital payment space, and every time there's an interview, you've done some fantastic interviews with him over the last couple of years. He really gets it. I mean, this sea change in terms of digital payments, mobile wallet-based payments, faster payments, new consumer experiences on top of those rails. SKUX kind of really demonstrate that writ large. I know he has a master plan and a grand vision, and he's been working on partnerships over the last 2 years. So not only have they been building out their platform, they've been building on the partnerships, and those are actually the real differentiator for a business. For him to have brought, or him for SKUX to delivered a technology platform which has product market fit, and to attract some of the world's biggest businesses like Mondelez, and then encouraging them and bringing them to the governing council so that they can get the benefits of being at that table and contributing to the overall good of Hedera is amazing for a startup like SKUX. And Visa is just another one of these examples. He said, I think in your interview, that they've been working on partnerships. These two are not the only, I'm sure. I have no insight. I speak to Bobby quite a lot, but I don't know who else he's working with. But I can imagine, from an Australian Payments Plus perspective, we work, we are the rails, we are the schemes, that's the equivalent of Visa. But we also like to work with, big retailers and the banks and other members of the schemes. And then beyond that, the wider economy. And so I know, SKUX is very US centric at the moment, but also, his partnerships take him global. So the Visa partnership, very few details about how that's leveraged, but I can just imagine they talk about bringing digital experiences to select clients, and those would be merchants, those would be businesses. There are, we know what SKUX does at the moment. We know its reactive and proactive approach to reduction of fraud and improving the experience, turning a bad consumer experience into a good one, or to one which is recovered and then added some additional value on top of it. So those sorts of use case are appropriate to all payments interactions. And one can see it from a brand perspective, such as Mondelez, but also at the merchant. The merchant, that interaction between a consumer and a merchant is key. And that might even be online. So there may not be any kind of physical, in fact, increasingly online. There'll be no physical interaction as well. So, how to capture the data associated with that interaction while maintaining privacy. SKUX is all about item level payments. So you're not revealing the contents of one's shopping basket, for example, while still kind of getting the benefits of understanding the individual item transaction, and how that data can then be used to enhance the experience. AP Plus, we have very similar approaches. We've got very, the consumer experience part of our business is constantly ideating around these things. So, it does really resonate with me how they've brought those parties together. And it's one of the, it's two of the biggest businesses in the world. Little old SKUX is actually now bringing together all of these massive partners who really. And that wasn't meant to be denigrating of SKUX. I mean, they're an amazing business, and at the center of this web of big, slow-moving corporates who are now beginning to see the benefits of the capability that businesses like SKUX bring. And that capability is only enabled through the integration with Hedera. Hedera is the technology platform on which, and the network on which these new business capabilities can be brought to market. And I've said this repeatedly, I think, over the last few weeks. We're now seeing this kind of model forming where the big corporates, the big enterprises, are partnering with more nimble, agile, faster moving Web 2.5 type businesses to bridge that gap and get their first taste of the Web3 space. Visa been playing in this space for ages. I remember when I was at PwC back in 2016, visiting their offices in the US and talking about cross-border payments and settlement. And that was when they acquired Chain, I think, one of the earlier blockchain businesses. And they've been experimenting with innovation for years. So, they know their stuff. They work very closely with Circle, I think, for USDC and putting stablecoin payments over those rails. So they do understand a lot about the Web3 space, and they are constantly innovating and creating new opportunities within their business. And that's what I see with the SKUX partnership. So I suspect there'll be many more announcements like this, both from the SKUX and from similar businesses who are integrating their capability with these big traditional payments platforms.
Well, one of the things I think the Hedera community kind of pigeonholed SKUX as just a promotions, just a coupons company. And Bobby is adamant that they are a payments company. They may work in that payments or in that coupon space, but they are a payments company. So my question to you, with Hedera being at the base layer of their tech stack, how much do you think Visa, when they have a partnership like this, are looking under the hood and paying attention to the technology that SKUX is using?
Oh, they'll be doing their due diligence for sure. A company like Visa doesn't partner with a third party without fully understanding the technology that they're operating, both from a risk perspective, but also from a product alignment and a technology alignment. So I'm certain that they will have done their deep technical due diligence and will understand entirely what SKUX is bringing to the party, because that's the differentiator, right? I mean, there are many loyalty businesses, there are many kind of payments businesses, but the differentiator here for SKUX is that they bring all those things together in a way which truly resonates and solves a particular problem within businesses and economies. So, very excited to see what Bobby and team are doing, and I'm kind of taking notes as well.
Well, it's good to hear. All right, so we're going to move over to some community questions. The first one comes from HBAR $10, who says, Australia also has credit unions. Is it a good fit for Bank Social?
Yes. Short answer. Australia has both credit unions and building societies. Credit unions have kind of gone through a period of merge and acquisition over the last 20, 30 years. We used to have about 700. I think we've got about 40 now. There are some big ones, largely based out of, or most of them are in New South Wales as a state, but distributed across the country. $35 billion in these credit unions, so not huge, but still not paltry. And yes, absolutely, Bank Social and their credit union platform would find very fertile ground here. In fact, John Wingate and I have spoken numerous times over the last few months about the potential for Australia being a target market for Bank Social.
Good to hear.
As with all these things, the regulatory environment needs to be favourable. I think the way that Bank Social have built their business in the US aligns quite closely with the way that it could be repeated here in Australia. Clearly, it's not as big a market, but Australia has a very good position, both geographically, on the doorstep to Asia Pacific, but also, it's quite an innovative space to develop new products before taking them to the rest of the world. So, John and I will continue our conversation. I saw him in New York recently, so it was great to meet the big guy in person, and his personality is as big as it is online. So I'm very excited to continue those conversations and help him wherever I can.
And I'll be meeting him next week at Consensus. So Good to meet him finally. I've talked to him a lot. All right, so the next question comes from Stoic Barbarian, who says, Shark Bites question, I don't think we need crypto media in the long run, but if it bothers the Hedera community and its leaders, why are the HBAR Foundation and Council, etc., not paying crypto media outlets like all the other projects do with their coffers that's supposed to go to onboarding and expanding the network?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question, isn't it? I think so. I suspect this is drawn from the recent experience that we had with Cointelegraph and CoinDesk. It's not new news, that these outlets that are not, professional journalists. They are paid media outlets that are a little self-serving, I suspect, a lot of the time. And, we haven't played that game, we as the Hedera ecosystem. I speak from the governing council, so I don't get involved with any of this. But yes, it's frustrating when your news feeds, have a major announcement on one hand, but aren't reflected in the crypto outlets. I think that's just the stall that we've set up. The foundation has responsibility for marketing and driving ecosystem development, and they've chosen not to take that route. There are influencers that across our social platforms that have become Hedera fans, and that's great to see. I think you see more and more, probably because they're have particular incentives themselves, or their bags are full and they're now ready to shill, which again we can't really support, because that's not really the Hedera way. But it happens, and it happens in the Web3 space all the time, and it is frustrating when Hedera isn't mentioned on a big announcement, because there are big names there, but Hedera's foundation or association have brought these to market. But we are seeing increasingly more media outlets outside that echo chamber that are talking about these big projects, and that's what's exciting for me. When you get a WiseKey talking about, you've done these interviews in the last few weeks. I think you've got it this week as well. So that those are big announcements that we can be very, very proud of. And they resonate 10x, 100x beyond the echo chamber. Yeah, I would say don't be down. It's just the way of the world. We can continue doing our thing. Hopefully, sooner or later, the likes of CoinDesk and Cointelegraph and all the others will recognize that we are here to stay, and we are building the best solutions in the Web3 space as well as the Web 2.5 space. Over time, we're here for the long run. We're a 100-year network. We're not going away, and therefore they'll have to get with the program. So the Hedera program is going to keep on relentlessly building. We're going to relentlessly build the TPS. We're going to relentlessly build the active accounts, and in our DeFi ecosystem, we'll relentlessly build out the total value locked and liquidity and everything else. So, sooner or later, the penny will drop, and we'll make advocates of all of those, the crypto media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think things like the WiseKey, that's one of the most exciting things I've seen, not just in crypto, but in the broader business world as well. I mean, it's really captures your attention, and it certainly captured mine. After the first few times I covered it, I actually went out and bought some of their stock. Because I believe in it. It's a really low market cap, certainly not financial advice, but it's still down at $25 million. And with the vision they have, I think they have a lot of potential. So we'll see.
They're
what
a proper
happens.
Business, right? They're a proper infrastructure business. They're satellites, and their vision isn't all about Hedera. It's not all about Web3. It's a proper business that sees the benefit of becoming integrated in a deep in or a decentralized physical infrastructure model,
but completely in line with what our vision is, and leveraging Hedera in multiple ways.
Completely. Yeah. So these complex use cases are now forming, right? The initial small projects are many of which are still growing, but also the big, nuanced, complex architecture projects are now forming that as well. And deep in and real world asset tokenization are actually the buzzwords of this cycle, I think. And we are so on the front foot from that perspective. So yeah, I suspect these businesses will grow. They'll benefit from the Hedera relationship. They'll continue to, they'll compete as well, which will drive a lot more activity. And under the covers, it'll all be Hedera.
I will say another thing from the HBAR Foundation. We have explored doing paid content. We haven't done it yet. I think we should do a fair amount more of paid content, but it needs to be done smartly. But I'm hoping that we're going to do more of that in the future. All right, so jumping on to the next question, it comes from Eduardo, who's had some fantastic ones in the past. This one's pretty simple, and it's around, I'm sure, all the news that's coming out around the Ethereum ETF, and it looks like that's going to come to fruition. And that's kind of a surprise to the entire space. But his question is an HBAR ETF realistic? Do you have any thoughts on this, Rob? Not exactly in your wheelhouse, but I wanted to throw it to you anyway.
So the Ethereum ETF news, if it truly is news by the time this goes out, has been a real shot in the arm for the whole space. So, we like that because, the growth of the Web3 ecosystem is driven by these little shocks. An HBAR exchange traded product is absolutely on the cards. I suspect it'll be in the not too distant future. We actually already have one. So Valor has launched an exchange traded product based on HBAR that was driven out of the Hashgraph Association in January. So, everyone can go and check that out. I think it's Swiss based and probably the first of many. So, the fact that we've got such a regulatory friendly crypto in HBAR and the setup of the whole organization gives itself to the confidence of the underlying asset for these exchange traded products, and we've got advocates really driving for them. I think it's going to happen.
I think there's a couple things that I'd like to say on this, but first is, like you said, Hedera HBAR is fairly regulatory friendly, so I think they're going to punch above their weight a little bit when they're considered for ETFs. The holy grail of ETFs is certainly going to be in the United States. An ETF in the United States, I think the first ones we're going to see that have HBAR involved are going to be a basket. It's not necessarily just going to be an HBAR ETF alone. It'll be a basket. The top however many tokens. And again, I think HBAR might skip a few spots to get into that because they are a little bit more compliant. The other thing is, then down the line, you'll see a solo HBAR market. But until the market is of a size where that makes sense, you're not going to have these financial institutions pursuing that. So I think at first it's going to be a basket, but we'll see. Time will tell.
That makes sense. That makes sense. For an exchange-traded product, you need two things, right? You need the product and you need the exchanges to list them. So I think with Valor, they've got agreements with a bunch of exchanges like Euronext Paris, Deutsche Börse, Xetra, SIX in Switzerland. So, those products will be available for Europeans or Swiss to also put into their portfolios or their retirement accounts, and then other places in the world. I think this product will be rolled out to. So. I think you're right. Baskets kind of spread the risk with some of these products, but also new markets which have a different regulatory outlook to the US and maybe a little bit more progressive will be able to adopt them as well.
It's certainly moving in the right direction. So the last one we have comes from Shibata. They had a question that we needed to translate, and I think it's asking what the deadline of total partnerships is. And I'm assuming this means it's another one of those asking when we're going to have a full council. Now, Rob, you've answered this a couple times in the past, but one thing that's changed is I think your outlook has changed a little bit around this. What are your thoughts on having a full council?
Well, I haven't changed my thoughts. My thoughts are kind of informed by what's happening in Memcom, the depth of the pipeline, the recruitment process for new governing council members. Hedera has an objective to fill the council this year, so by December. So that's a bit of a stretch target in my view, but that's where we are driving recruitment towards. I actually think it's probably going to be a little bit longer than that, maybe the first quarter of 2025 before filling the council. But it's in that time frame. It might be 9 months, it might be 6 months, it might be 12. But like I said, the pipeline is deep enough to fill. Then we have the ability to roll off other existing council members and replace them in a cyclical way. And actually, the recruitment or the inclusion of new council members over the last 3 years has meant that every year we'll be able to have that rollover. One of our challenges, of course, is what happens when we've got a full council? They're all very engaged, and they're all they all want to stay on for their second term, and you've got a long line of council members wanting to new council members wanting to come in. But it's a very good problem to have. Yeah.
All right, Rob. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. Next week, I'm going to be a consensus, so we're going to have to skip a week, but we'll certainly get the week after that. Everybody continue to drop your questions down there in the comments. We really appreciate all the effort you guys put into asking them, and we try to give you the best answers we possibly can. Rob, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, enjoy consensus next week. I wish I could be there.
Of course, I always love those conversations with Rob. But to shift gears here a little bit, we have Blade Labs, who, of course, they do work across our entire space with Diamond Standard, with Slime World, and Nada, who we recently interviewed with Karate Combat. But they have a new integration that they were highlighting this week. What do we have?
So Muinmos are a leading global provider of automated regulatory technology, and they have partnered with Blade Labs to make the user onboarding when it comes to KYC and AML much more streamlined throughout Web3. So I think the best way to describe this is by going straight to the quotes themselves by Sami, the CEO of Blade, and the CEO of Muinmos. So I'll quickly read it verbatim. So Sami says, "Our objective is to simplify the KYC process and make it uniform across all vendors. This will improve the user experience and considerably reduce operational costs. By partnering with Muinmos, Blade Labs can utilize its exceptional regulatory technology, particularly its ability to accurately classify investors. This is crucial for compliance and tailored customer service." So we've seen already Blade work with teams like Slime World to ensure that the customers working within their ecosystem buying the Nada token do so through that KYC AML process. And it seems like this is a natural extension of that for Blade to offer its wallet as a service to its partners, its big partners like Slime World, but also its enterprise partners like LG Electronics and so on. So they know exactly who is using their wallets, who is buying tokens, whether or not they're green listed within the region or the country or the wallet, whatever it might be. So this seems, like a very natural extension for Blade, their own USP, which is particularly with enterprises and teams looking to leverage them as a sort of white label.
And here's that quote that you mentioned from the Muinmos founder and CEO. "Our combined technology will enable enterprises to engage more efficiently and securely with digital assets while setting a new standard for compliance in the digital asset ecosystem. Our goal is to strike a balance between fostering innovation and ensuring the stability, security, and integrity of the digital asset space." And Zeb, we actually have a video kind of explaining what they're doing. So let's take a look at that.
In the complex landscape of Web3 compliance, navigating regulatory requirements can be a daunting task. But with Blade Labs, we're here to simplify the process for you. Our suite of tools is designed to seamlessly integrate into your platform, automating crucial compliance checks with ease. First, our automatic KYC AML check instantly verifies user identities, ensuring regulatory compliance from the get-go. With AI-driven user categorization, you can tailor your offerings to specific jurisdictions, providing products only to eligible users. But we don't stop there. Our KYC on-chain analysis delves deep into user wallet history, screening for any suspicious activity to keep your platform's user base protected. And with our KYC guarantee, wrapped tokens are interacted with only by KYC'd users, adding an extra layer of security. Geo-filtering ensures compliance with local regulations, while our advanced bot detection program safeguards against fraudulent activity, identifying and preventing malicious bots in real time. With on-chain governance, you have complete control over your tokens, enforcing KYC requirements and ensuring compliance every step of the way. So, whether it's automatic KYC AML checks or advanced bot detection, Blade Labs is your partner in streamlining Web3 regulatory compliance.
So Zep, of course, Blade is working with all kinds of different teams. One of the most high-profile ones is Karate Combat, and they did something a little bit differently this past week. You might have seen I reposted they were doing up-only gaming for a poker match, and I reposted it, but somehow I didn't get in time to actually participate, which certainly got under my skin. But what they're proving is this up-only gaming concept can be used for anything. And normally I wouldn't watch poker, but if I had been participating and I had tokens on that, I would have been all over it. So it doesn't matter what kind of competitive thing you have. If you can put a wager on it, you can do up-only gaming with it. So I really think this is going to extend to all kinds of consumer engagement in the sports, in the gaming space, and I'm excited to see Karate Combat leading in that charge. All right, we're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to go to Kabila, which of course has amazing tools for our NFT creators out there, and they're creating other tools as well. But I actually joined the Kabila Creators Council. One of the things that I want to do is highlight the different teams that are building for them. So I'm going to highlight not just what Kabila is doing, but also the creators that Kabila is facilitating. I want to highlight them. So I want to try to do that at least once a month. I'm really honored that they asked me to be on that council, and I'm going to try to do my best to do right by them. So Zeb, the last thing that I want to get into before we get into network analysis is I'm sure people have noticed that I'm putting a lot more videos out. I'm taking past interviews and I'm reposting them independently to my channel. The reason why I'm doing that is it was hard to share things that I had covered in the past directly with people. It was hard to search my channel for specific things. If you wanted to look for Neuron, or you wanted to look for WiseKey, or you wanted to look for Archax, it was hard to find that stuff, specifically when you want to just show the interview with the representative from those entities. So I'm adding all of these interviews by themselves, so you can just go on my channel and search for Archax, and then the Archax interview will come up and you can share it as you see fit. This is free to use for any influencers out there, media outlets, or just the Hedera community. So that's what it's for. It's for sharing. So use it however you would like. And with that, we'll go ahead and get into some network analysis. As far as network throughput, it's been a bit volatile. We had been sitting right at 1,600 transactions per second, but it dropped down and we were only at about 400 transactions per second for a couple days, and then it spiked back up. And for times we were averaging well over 2,000 transactions per second. It dropped back down for a little while to about 1,300 transactions per second, and now we've jumped back up, processing about 1,800 transactions per second. So I'm sure this is at my I.O. making some tweaks, making some changes, but it's good to see that we are keeping those numbers up. And we have managed to have a max TPS of about 7,600 over the past 7 days. All this with a time to consensus just over 3.5 seconds. And we've created about 50,000 accounts over the past week. Looking at our fungible tokens, Wrapped HBAR is still in the top spot, but the name still isn't displaying correctly. Next up, we have Karate, Sauce, Dovu, and Energy Trade token. Next up, we have Native USDC, the newly listed PAC token, Unlucky, the bridged version of USDC, and another one that the name isn't showing up for, but it is XSauce. Moving down to our NFTs, SaucerSwap's liquidity token has taken over the top spot again, followed by the 2024 road code access card. Then we have a couple Rant CPU tokens, Hashpack's INO NFT, and something called Trash. Doctor Who Worlds Apart is up next and continues to make a strong showing, and that may continue now that I'm starting to see Doctor Who pop up on Disney+. So it looks like Doctor Who's expanding into new markets. The Doctor Who Worlds Apart token is followed by the Slime World NFT and sub 100K. And Zep, with that, we'll dive into DeFi. Taking a look at DeFi Llama, the total value locked in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem is sitting at $105 million. 98 million of that is on SaucerSwap, 4.5 million on HBAR Suite, and 2.25 million on HeliSwap. Moving on to the crypto markets, the buzz in the crypto space was certainly around what looks to be an Ethereum ETF approval. The sudden change in the likelihood for an ETH ETF seems to be politically driven. Approval has already been granted to exchanges by the SEC, and without a doubt, the issuer's approval will be close behind. This really is a watershed moment for the altcoin space, and I expect many other crypto investment vehicles to be coming as well, but it might take some time, and as we discussed in Shark Bites, HBAR will likely be included. Still, this has and will likely continue to cause capital to be attracted to ETH for a while, possibly at the detriment of other tokens like HBAR, but in the long run, it's bullish for the entire space. Bitcoin is up 1.7% on the day and 2.8% on the week to just under $69,000. ETH is down 2.3% on the day, but up 20% on the week on this ETF news. Due to some of that capital getting sucked into ETH, HBAR is flat on the day, but down 5.5% on the week to 10.9 cents. HBAR has been range bound for the past couple weeks with support between 10.5 and 10.6 and resistance at 12 cents. All right, Zep, that's all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
I'm really looking forward to the DeFi incentives, I think. Knowing there's that renewed interest in the retail, or not renewed, but knowing that there is significant development going on there within that ecosystem, I think that's important for everyone to see, but also for developers and users to know that that attention isn't going anywhere but increasing. So that's, for me, I think the highlight for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly excited about everything that's happening with WiseSat. I think they have an enormous vision. As I mentioned in Shark Bites, I actually bought some of their stock. It's down a fair amount, but I think once this stuff starts to actually come to market, I think it's going to absolutely explode. But full disclosure, I did want to say that I did buy the stock for SealSQ. Now, next week, we're not going to have a show. I'm going to be down at Consensus. I'm going to go to Karate Combat, so I'm going to try to get some content around that. I'm also going to be down there, and I have a room blocked off for doing some interviews. So I'm going to have some time. So if you are building on Hedera and you do want to have an interview down there, get with me. You'll see me at the Hedera booth, and we can get something dialed in. As far as an X space, I'm also going to be doing a recap. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on Friday or if I'm going to do it on Saturday. But anybody that's down there, please join in. And anybody that's not there, you'll be able to get a full recap in that space. Continue to drop your questions down below for Shark Bites. Make sure you go check out some of those past interviews we've done with Hedera builders. You can find them on my channel and search. I'm going to be continuing to build out that repository. It might take a long time before I have it all in, but by midsummer, I should have them all uploaded. And if you missed it, go and check out our last weekly update. We had a great Shark Bites. Rob was absolutely on fire. That's all we have. We'll see you in a couple weeks.